When we speak about relationships, we often imagine them as something that happens between two people, as if love is this space between me and you, filled with emotions, chemistry, and shared experiences. But what we rarely think about is how much that space is shaped, sustained, and sometimes destroyed by the words we choose to use. The language between two people is not just a method of communication, it is the emotional architecture of the relationship itself. Every word that passes between you either builds a bridge or lays a brick in a wall. Every sentence either invites connection or quietly pushes it away. You see, the power of words is often underestimated because words seem so ordinary. We use them every day, casually, carelessly, sometimes habitually. But the truth is, what we say to each other has the power to define how safe, seen, and respected we feel. When a man speaks to you, listen not just to his words, but to the intention beneath them. The tone, the rhythm, the pauses, they tell you something deeper than the surface meaning, because words are energy. They reveal the world that person lives in and the world he wants to pull you into. When Heng speaks about awareness, he is pointing to something fundamental. Awareness is not about analyzing others, it's about perceiving life as it is. To be aware is to see without judgment, to listen without reacting, and to understand without immediately needing to fix. When you bring awareness into your relationships, you start noticing the subtleties, the small phrases that make you shrink, the words that silence you, the comments that make you question your worth. Sometimes we think these things are small. A dismissive comment, a condescending tone, a cruel joke disguised as humor. But awareness teaches us that nothing is small when it touches your soul. A word can stay inside you for years. It can echo in your mind long after the person who said it is gone. Many people carry entire belief systems that were built on words spoken to them when they were young. Words that said, "You're not enough, you're too much, you're difficult, you're replaceable." And so when a man speaks to you in a way that diminishes your being, you must pause. You must ask, what is this voice trying to plant inside me? Because people don't just communicate, they plant seeds. And if you are not aware, you might start watering the very words that will later destroy your peace. Awareness is the space between hearing and reacting. When a man says something that unsettles you, awareness gives you the ability to observe before you absorb. Instead of internalizing the message, maybe I am too emotional, maybe I am overreacting, you begin to see the manipulation or projection for what it is. You realize that not every word deserves a home inside you. Many women and men too lose themselves because they forget that language is a reflection of consciousness. When someone speaks from fear, they use the language of control. When they speak from love, they use the language of curiosity and respect. A man who has done his inner work does not use words as weapons. He uses them as instruments of understanding. He does not try to silence you with authority, he tries to understand you through dialogue. But awareness must first live inside you. Before you can see through someone else's words, you must become deeply familiar with your own. What do you tell yourself when you are hurt? What language do you use when you speak to yourself after being disappointed, rejected, or misunderstood? Because often the words we allow from others are reflections of the words we already use internally. If your inner dialogue is harsh, critical, or filled with self-doubt, you will unconsciously normalize that tone from others. So the first step in awareness is self-observation. Not judgment, not self-criticism, but observation. Notice how you speak to yourself. Notice how you respond when someone questions you. Notice the moments when you shrink your voice to keep the peace, or when you laugh at something that actually hurt you because you don't want to seem too sensitive. Every time you do that, you teach yourself that your boundaries don't matter. And this is where the wisdom of awareness becomes your protection. When you become aware of your own emotional landscape, you stop being easily manipulated by someone else's words. You begin to see patterns, not because you're paranoid, but because you're present. Awareness allows you to feel everything but be owned by nothing. It is the calm in the middle of the storm. Now, imagine two people having a disagreement. One says, "You're overreacting." The other, aware of her emotions and her truth, pauses and breathes. She doesn't react. She doesn't shout back. Instead, she observes, "I am feeling dismissed." That single moment of awareness changes everything. because instead of being pulled into the emotional chaos of the other person, she remains anchored in herself. Awareness gives her power, but not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates. When a man says something cruel or dismissive, the aware person doesn't just hear the words, she hears the wound behind them. She sees the insecurity, the unhealed part of him that needs control to feel safe. But awareness doesn't mean you must stay and understand him. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. Awareness means you can see clearly and then choose wisely. Many people stay in toxic dynamics because they confuse awareness with endurance. They think being conscious means tolerating more, forgiving endlessly, or fixing the other person. But awareness is not tolerance, it's clarity. It's the ability to say, I understand why you are the way you are, but I also understand that I deserve peace. Awareness allows you to walk away, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with understanding and grace. We often say that love is blind, but true love is actually the opposite. It is the deepest form of seeing. Awareness lets you love without illusion. It lets you see a person's wounds without taking responsibility for healing them. It allows you to care without losing yourself. And that's what makes it so powerful. Think about the last time someone's words truly hurt you. Maybe it wasn't the first time. Maybe it was the 10th. And yet every time you told yourself it didn't matter, that it was just words, just a bad day, just a misunderstanding. But words create emotional climates. They decide whether your relationship feels like sunlight or like walking on eggshells. The person who constantly dismisses, belittles, or mocks you is slowly teaching you to doubt your own worth. Awareness is the moment you wake up and realize this is not love. This is control dressed as affection. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes with awareness. The strength to stay calm in the face of manipulation, to remain kind without being naive, to stay grounded even when someone tries to pull you into their storm. When you cultivate this awareness, you stop needing to argue to be understood. You simply see what is and act from that clarity. Awareness also transforms the way you listen. Instead of listening to respond, you begin to listen to understand both others and yourself. You start to notice how often conversations are not about connection, but about power. Who is trying to dominate? Who is trying to prove something? And you begin to realize that true intimacy requires mutual awareness. It requires two people who are not afraid to look within, to question themselves, to hold space for discomfort. When a man speaks with awareness, his words invite safety. He says, help me understand. Instead of, you're wrong. He says, I can see you're hurt, instead of, you're too sensitive. That kind of man speaks from consciousness, not ego. And that is the kind of energy you deserve to stand beside. But when his words come from a place of defensiveness or dominance, you must listen with the ear of awareness, not the heart of longing. You cannot translate cruelty into love simply because you want it to mean something else. Awareness teaches you that the way someone speaks to you when they're angry tells you everything about their level of respect. Love without respect is not love, it is possession. To truly live with awareness is to hold yourself with tenderness. It is to trust that what you feel is valid, that your intuition is wise, and that silence is sometimes the loudest response. You don't need to fight to prove your worth. Your awareness already knows it. The more conscious you become, the less tolerance you have for chaos disguised as passion. You begin to crave peace more than attention, respect more than validation, truth more than comfort. Sometimes people will tell you that you've changed. They'll say you're too distant, too cold, too serious now. But what they really mean is that you've stopped allowing them to speak to you in ways that diminish your spirit. You've stopped entertaining conversations that drain your energy. Awareness will often isolate you at first, because you will no longer fit into the patterns of those who are still asleep. But over time, that solitude will feel like freedom. And so, if you find yourself listening to someone whose words make you question your value, pause. Don't react. Breathe. Ask yourself, what are these words teaching me about this person's relationship with themselves? Because often, what people say to you is simply a reflection of how they speak to themselves when no one is listening. Their cruelty is a mirror of their own inner war. Their disrespect is a symptom of their own shame. And you do not have to join them there. Walking away is not an act of pride. It is an act of awareness. You are not punishing them, you are protecting your peace. You are saying, I see what this is, and I choose not to participate. That decision, though quiet, is one of the most powerful declarations of self-respect you can make. In the end, words are not just sounds, they are signatures of consciousness. They reveal where a person is in their journey of self-awareness. And when you become truly aware, you stop being impressed by the loudness of someone's voice or the charm of their language. You start paying attention to how their words make you feel in your body, calm or anxious, open or closed, safe or small. Because your body always knows before your mind does. Awareness means listening not only with your ears, but with your entire being. So when a man speaks, listen deeply, not to judge, but to understand. Listen for his awareness. Listen for respect. Listen for empathy. And if what you hear instead is control, arrogance, or dismissal, don't argue, don't explain, don't try to change his mind. Simply recognize it and step away. Not because you are angry, but because you are awake. Because the moment you become aware, you no longer chase words that don't honor your worth. You walk away from them and toward yourself. When a man says to you, you're too emotional, he is not describing you. He is revealing his own inability to hold space for depth. Emotions are not a flaw, and sensitivity is not a weakness. It is the language of the soul, the movement of life itself within you. To feel deeply is not to be fragile, it is to be alive. Yet many people fear emotions because they cannot control them. When someone tells you that you are too emotional, what they truly mean is that your presence awakens something in them they have not yet learned to face within themselves. The world often teaches us to suppress emotion, to hide what is raw, to label vulnerability as something shameful. But emotion is simply energy, energy that wants to move, to express, to flow. When you cry, when you laugh, when you feel, you are not being dramatic, you are being human. You are allowing life to move through you. And yet, many people live like still water, calm on the surface but stagnant within. When they meet someone who flows freely, who feels openly, they become uncomfortable, not because that person is wrong, but because that person reflects the stillness they have mistaken for peace. When someone says, you're too emotional, what they are often saying is, your truth makes me uncomfortable. They are not ready to meet life in its full spectrum, the joy, the pain, the beauty, the sorrow. But you must understand this, your emotions are not here to please others, they are here to guide you. They are messages from your inner world, signals from your consciousness, teachers that show you where you are in harmony and where you are in resistance. To deny them is to deny yourself. Imagine a mountain during the storm. The wind howls, the rain falls, yet the mountain remains. It does not curse the sky for crying, nor does it wish the storm away. It simply allows everything to come and go, knowing that the storm is part of the natural order. You must become like that mountain, steady within, allowing the weather of emotion to move through you without shame. The problem begins when someone tells you that you are the storm itself, rather than the space through which the storm passes. Those who cannot sit with your emotion will try to silence it. They may use phrases like, you're overreacting, calm down, or you're too sensitive. These are not invitations to understanding, they are attempts to escape discomfort. When a man says these words, he is showing you that he values control more than connection. He is choosing comfort over truth. A person who cannot sit with your tears will never be able to meet your heart. We live in a time where people are quick to speak but slow to feel. They talk about love but run from intimacy. They crave connection but fear vulnerability. To be emotional is to invite the unknown. It is to step into a space where logic no longer dominates. That is why people fear it, because it dissolves the illusion of control. But remember, real strength is not found in control. It is found in the ability to stay open when everything in you wants to close. Your emotions are not enemies, they are doorways. Anger shows you where your boundaries have been crossed. Sadness shows you where you have lost something meaningful. Fear shows you what you value and wish to protect. Love shows you your capacity to expand. Every emotion is a messenger carrying wisdom. But when someone labels you as too emotional, they are dismissing your wisdom. They are telling you that your experience is too much for them to handle. That is not a reflection of your worth. it is a reflection of their readiness. In my years of observation, I have seen how emotional dismissal becomes a slow poison in relationships. At first it seems small, a sarcastic comment, a roll of the eyes, a sigh when you try to express yourself. But over time, these moments teach you to shrink. You begin to question whether your feelings are valid. You start to edit your truth, to swallow your pain, to numb your joy. And one day you realize you no longer recognize yourself. That is the danger of accepting the idea that you are too emotional. It separates you from your own essence. There is a quiet dignity in emotion. It connects you to compassion. It allows you to understand others beyond words. Without emotion, there is no empathy. Without empathy, there is no love. A relationship that cannot hold emotion becomes transactional, a negotiation of needs rather than a dance of souls. When you are told you are too emotional, you are being asked to cut yourself off from the very force that makes connection possible. To walk away from such energy is not an act of defiance. It is an act of preservation. You are protecting the temple of your heart. You are choosing not to dim your light for someone who fears brightness. You are saying, if my depth scares you, then you are not meant to swim here. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. You are not rejecting the person, you are simply refusing to abandon yourself. The world needs more emotional awareness, not less. It needs people who can cry without shame, who can say, I am hurt, without fearing ridicule, who can love fiercely without pretending indifference. But such people are often misunderstood. They are called too intense, too dramatic, too emotional. And yet, it is these very souls who bring healing to the spaces they touch. Their presence stirs what others have buried. Their sensitivity is not a flaw, it is medicine. However, your emotion becomes your suffering when you attach to it. Awareness means feeling everything fully but not identifying with any of it. When you are angry, know that anger is visiting. It is not who you are. When you are sad, know that sadness is flowing through. It is not your identity. The one who observes the emotion is always untouched. You are not your waves. You are the ocean beneath them. So, when someone says, you're too emotional, let them speak. Let them reveal their limitation. You do not need to defend your emotion. You only need to observe the truth of what is happening. This person is not rejecting you. They are rejecting the part of life they have not yet learned to embrace. You can meet their words with calmness, with silence, or with a simple smile, because you understand that what they see as too much is actually your wholeness. Emotional intelligence begins with acceptance. You do not fight your emotions, you witness them. You let them rise and you let them pass. You do not hold on and you do not push away. When you live this way, emotion no longer controls you. It becomes your teacher. And in relationships, it becomes your compass. The one who cannot meet your emotion cannot meet your truth. And without truth, there is no intimacy, only illusion. The irony is that the people who call you too emotional are often the ones who are most disconnected from themselves. They envy your freedom but do not understand it. They see your tears and mistake them for weakness because they have never allowed themselves to feel so deeply. They may admire your passion but fear the vulnerability it demands. You cannot teach them by explaining. You can only teach them by living your truth without apology. Sometimes, silence is the most powerful response to dismissal. When someone tries to reduce your being to a stereotype, you do not owe them an argument. Your calmness becomes your boundary. Your stillness becomes your strength. You show them that emotional awareness is not chaos, it is mastery. It is the ability to feel without drowning, to express without harming, to remain compassionate even in the face of misunderstanding. Do not suppress your emotion to appear composed. True composure comes not from avoidance but from alignment. When your inner world and outer expression are one, there is peace. You are not pretending, you are being. That is the essence of emotional balance, not control but harmony. Control says, do not feel. Harmony says, feel but stay awake. If you ever find yourself in a relationship where your emotions are constantly minimized, where every attempt at expression is turned into an accusation, where your sensitivity is used against you, pause, observe. Ask yourself, is this environment nourishing my growth, or is it draining my essence? The answer will not come from thought. It will come from how your body feels. Tightness in your chest, heaviness in your heart, tension in your breath. These are signs that your emotional truth is being suffocated. You must remember that walking away does not mean you fail to love. It means you refuse to abandon your own spirit. To love another does not require losing yourself. True love is spacious. It welcomes emotion. It listens. It learns. When someone cannot meet you in your emotional depth, it is not your task to pull them down or lift them up. It is your task to continue walking in truth, to continue growing, to continue flowing. You are not too emotional. You are simply in a world that has forgotten how to feel. And your task is not to become less. It is to remain open in a world that tries to close you. To feel deeply is to live fully. And to live fully is to honor the sacred language of your heart. So when a man says to you, "You're too emotional," do not shrink. Stand in the stillness of your being and know emotion is not your weakness. It is your wisdom, your compass, your truth. Because the one who feels deeply does not drown in life. They become the ocean itself.